Hey y'all. There appears to be some smudges on the screen. Let me fix that. All right, I think that's as good as we're gonna get. You know what? This picture, my wife and I, is glowing, which I kind of like, but for your viewing pleasure, I'm gonna remove that. All right. So, episode 3, protein and purpose. We're talking about fuck fear. And I've got a little story here, but before that, just thoughts on fear. Uh, we all know the story of David and Goliath. That's fear. Fear is Goliath, the giant bully who has the appearance of being strong, but isn't. Could easily be defeated, but is the master of drawing distractions away from his weaknesses, and very, very good at making you think you can't beat him. Y'all, I mean, everybody knows the base story of David Goliath, right? This giant, anybody can challenge me, anyone. An entire army says no. And young shepherd boy steps out with against this giant and takes him out easily. What I've read about it in the past few years is there was historic proof that Goliath had gigantism. So what comes along with that is poor vision, um, not a lot of athleticism, so wasn't very quick, couldn't move, wasn't agile. But again, this appearance of just a giant, a literal giant in your way. So whatever it is you're afraid of, we all know the old saying, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And what you're fearing isn't true. Fear is a fucking liar. And the personal story I have with this, the story I actually got to bear witness to, is a client I had years ago. We'll call her T. So this was about 2007, 2008. She was going through just this reinvention of herself, and um, joined a gym I was working at, hired me as a trainer, and over a couple months training her, you develop a relationship. So we would always make jokes. And there was one day where we were talking about strange things we see in our careers. She was an event coordinator, so very, uh, a lot of crazy stories she had to share. And so at this point, I'd been a professional trainer coach for 7, 8 years, but I'd been going to gyms since the late 80s, early 90s. So, I had a lot of stories to share. But there's one thing I'd always shared to this point that nobody could ever address. And it was whatever time you go to the gym, it can be 6 a.m., 7 p.m., noon, midnight, 3 in the morning. It doesn't matter. If the gym's open, there is someone sitting in their car in the parking lot, just sitting there. Now it's really easy nowadays. Everybody's got these. So they're just scrolling social media. But again, this was 2007, 2008. Social media in her pocket wasn't around at that point, or maybe it was just coming to be. And again, I'm going back to the late 80s, early 90s. So what were they doing? What were those people doing? And the common answers I would get were, um, are they stalking somebody? Maybe they're just living out of their car. But then I told T, and she said, "Okay, yeah, I know what they're doing." And I said, "Oh, okay, well, enlighten me. What is it?" She goes, "Well, that was me for 3 months before I joined this gym. Every day, I would pack my bag with gym clothes, and I would go to work. I would work all day, and today's the day. I'm going to the gym, and I would drive to the gym, and I would sit there in my car, trying to pump myself up to go in the gym." She said, "Every day for almost 3 months, I couldn't do it." And she told me that. And at that point, I had like a small existential crisis because, again, been going to gyms since the late 80s. Professionally, considering myself a professional coach, trainer, a guy who changes people's lives. And for decades, I'd been walking past people on the threshold of making the decision that improves their life exponentially. And I'm walking by going, what's that loser doing? So it hit me like a ton of bricks. realizing that these people were so close to the thing that just skyrockets every aspect of their life, and they were just sitting there. Now, I can only we can only hope to control ourselves. We can't control other people. So I can't take ownership for those people that weren't making that decision. But since then, whenever I see it, I'll give a little thumbs up, something like that. Who knows? I'm sure most of the time people will probably go, "What's that weirdo? What's he give me a thumbs up for?" But hey, maybe I'm helping someone. But if that's you, fucking do it. Just stop sitting in the car. What is in that gym is yours just as much as it is anyone else's. The heaviest weight in the gym is the front door. And just like every other weight, the more you move it, the easier it gets. Now, maybe you're a regular gym goer and you don't have that problem, but there's absolutely something in your life that needs to be addressed. There's somewhere in your life where this is showing up. Myself, for this podcast, I've been thinking about doing this podcast for a long time. And just for even a conversation I had recently, somebody reached out to me, not knowing I'm doing this at this point. They know now. Uh, but they reached out and asked me about podcasting and was I ever going to get into it? And they were talking about how they want to, but they've been afraid. I said, "Yeah, I just launched mine." At that point, he said, at episode two, I was dealing with the same fear, but I decided, "Fuck it, I'm going to do it," because I was thinking about T and that story with her. So yeah, now let's say you're like, "Oh, I can't do it." There is something you can work on that I'm going to tell you, and it's going to seem small, it's going to seem simple, but I want you to try it because when you actually do it, something I've done helps me whenever I'm dealing with any type of challenges. Years ago, Tim Ferriss talked about the comfort zone challenge, and it's really simple. There's a bunch of different ways you can apply it. One of the ways he highlighted, which is something I put into play, was anytime you're purchasing something, I'm gonna say every time you're purchasing something, you ask for a discount. And it's just as simple as, "Hey, do you have any discounts available for me today?" Sometimes they'll say yes. Sometimes they'll say, "What type of discount?" What I've come to say is, "I don't know, good guy discount? Do you have any of those?" That goes, people either love that or hate that. Maybe you'll get a discount, maybe you won't. But asking for it face to face from another person is, at least for me and anyone I've ever talked to, is challenging. Try it. Try it for a week. See how you feel. See what it brings out in you. And I guarantee if you do it for a week, whatever it is that you're wanting to do is going to get that fear, that Goliath is going to get just a little bit smaller. All right, y'all. That's all I got for today. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. If you thought this was useful, please share it. I will see you in the future. Get strong and do stuff, y'all.